Royal Risings Empire. I'm about 10 minutes late. It's 6:10. Not that I wasn't up and ready, it's just that I'm trying out new equipment. And my ass didn't know how to set it up. You see that? I didn't know how to set it up. And I was having some issues with it. Let's see. I'm using two cameras, so I'm live on one and I'm recording on another. So good morning. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, YouTube. Today is a good day. It's Mental Health Monday. Today is the day that I start EDMR, which is a trauma therapy. And it possibly couldn't start at a better time because I found out this week that I actually do need the support of a therapist just to do what I do. You know, I have a godson that's in the hospital right now in Detroit. And it's not looking good. And I went to see him Saturday. And even though I met with my goddess before and she anointed me, and I mean she oiled me up. She was like she anointed me with her hands at first. But then she said, I feel like you need a double dose. So she took the thing and just started spraying me from head to toe. I was like, oh, what am I about to go? What am I about to do? You know. But I was well anointed. And thankfully she did, because I was not prepared for what I was about to see. I wasn't prepared. And when I walked into the hospital room, my heart just dropped, because I could literally tell no one had been there but his dad to see him. I didn't have to look around and tell that. They told me that because they thought I was his mom. So they did explain to me that he was not responding on Saturday, so I know what that means. We all know what that means, but what triggered me is that he's a young black man, the same age as my son. And he might be the same age now as my son when he passed away. And, you know, my son was a big black guy too, really dark-skinned guy. And so when I walked in there, immediately, I'm walking into my godson's room. But when I get in there and see him, and my mind triggers, and what I see is my son. I have PTSD, so you can't really control stuff like that. You just have to learn how to manage it. And so they were actually surprised somebody was there to visit him, and I felt bad. So I felt really bad. But I live like an hour or so away, and I don't really know anything about his friendship group. I was associated with his sister, and that's how we became family, through his sister, who passed away last November. And so my mental got a little overloaded on Saturday. And when I get triggered, and I don't know if you live with PTSD, where you have to understand when you're triggered. When I'm triggered, the first thing I have is a physical response. Um, my breath, my breathing changes. My breathing changes, and I feel like I'm going to pass out. And sometimes it can actually feel like you're about to have a heart attack or something like that. That's a physical change. That's the anxiety just balling up inside of you. And then the second, the physical, then your mind starts to go. And I want to really explain what happens in your mind chemically, because a lot of times, because we don't understand what's going on, we mystify things. But what happens when you're triggered is you get an overload in your brain of cortisol. You know, there are parts of your brain that control and keep you level. And when you see something that triggers a memory or something like that that was traumatic for you, you go through these physical, mental, emotional responses. I'm used to it. I've learned how to live with PTSD because it's the thorn in my side that I have to learn how to live with. And so I study it, I teach it, but I live it. What do I do when I'm triggered? If you watched my videos on Saturday, you probably would have had to go to YouTube to do that. I literally posted myself right in the middle of being triggered. And I'm sitting in the car listening to my son's music. Why? When I walked into that hospital room and I saw to see my godson, my mind saw my son. And then it's just like everything came back down over me of losing my own baby. Losing my own son at 30 when he was 30. And those emotions seem to overwhelm you right then. And sometimes they just, you can't really deal with them right then. And I couldn't. So I went in there. I said a few words to him. He wasn't responding, but I'm hoping he heard me. And I put some purple cloth over him because I believe the color purple has healing in it. It doesn't necessarily mean anybody else does, but I believe that. And so when I go visit the sick, I always put something purple on them. If I go to somebody that I know is going to pass away, I wrap their whole body in purple. My auntie, I went and I wrapped my auntie in purple, and that's me. I don't mean nothing to nobody else but me. Yeah, that's me. And so I put purple on him. The nurses were shocked because they hadn't seen anybody in there, and they were shocked that I was there. And so, he's in the ICU, so there's not a lot of room in the ICU room that he's in. Like literally only one other person, maybe two, can fit in there. But the nurse was in there working with him, and she had just started, and it was gonna be a while. So she stepped out so I could have a few minutes with him, and but she couldn't be out long because she was in the middle of something. And so I let her come back in, and then I went back out in the hall. And the moment I got in that hall, I just fell apart. I just fell apart. And I'm walking down the hallway, and one of the nurses or practitioners come chase me down. And this is what really broke me, because they had already told me he wasn't responding. And so they asked me, you know, are you somebody who can make decisions for him? And when you hear that, you know what's going on. You know what the decision is. I just looked at him, and I just saw him, and I know what the decision is. So immediately I start grieving. I literally was in grief leaving the hospital. And I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk until I have a CD, a last CD that I found from my son, the Holy Eight. The Holy Eight means the divine new beginning. And that is where I'm getting the title for my podcast from, the Holy Eight Effect. But I have a CD in my car. It stays in my truck. It never leaves. And I just play my son's music, and there's, you know, when I listen to the song The Holy Eight, I realized that my son knew he was out of here. And then I realized that a lot of our young black men don't have the mindset to have a long life expectancy. I remember my son telling me on his 30th birthday, he said, "Mom, I'm so happy that I turned 30 because I never thought that I would live past 25. Now, I've been a minister my whole life. From the time I was 17, I've been ordained. Supposedly, I'm walking around with the answer. They tell me Jesus is the answer. That boy done been pumped with Jesus. It wasn't the answer. I don't know why we think our young men today find comfort in that. They don't. See, they're living in a life where they don't have, there's just too much going on. They're not looking. See, my generation and the generations before us, we tended to sit around and wait to die. We waiting for Jesus to come. And that's how we functioned. Jesus coming back. Jesus coming back. Man, Jesus is not coming back. If he come back, some of y'all are gonna be lost. So don't let him come back right now. Anyway, that's our religion, and I did not go there to be religious. And my son wasn't religious. My godson is not even as religious as my son was. So I don't use that approach anymore. I don't. But that knocked the wind out of me. And I've literally been sitting in grief since Saturday. My spirit man is grieving. Everybody's walking around the house. You okay? I'm fine. My spirit man is just processing what's going on. Just processing what's going on. I understand how to take care of me when I'm triggered. One of the things that happens to me when I get triggered is there's an overload in my mind. If you are somebody that lives with PTSD, you understand what I'm talking about. Your mind just gets overloaded and it just fires. It just fires. You've got a million thoughts, a million feelings, crying, laughing. It's just everything gets confused. And when that happens, it takes all my strength. It's just like somebody unlocked the cap. Excuse me, that was a tear. Somebody unlocked the cap and poured all my energy out. And that's how I felt Saturday. So I know when I feel like that, in order for my brain to recalibrate, I gotta rest. Not just rest, sleep. I gotta sleep. But the problem is, when you're triggered, it also triggers insomnia. There are 3 things it's going to trigger: insomnia, anxiety, and then it moves into like a slight depression, where I am now. You say, oh, you don't look depressed. I don't look depressed to you. Everybody around here knows mom's working it out. They all know because they know me. It's not, I understand it's temporary. Sometimes when things happen like this, I have to deal with myself first before someone passes away or something like that, so that when it happens, I'm able to deal with the family because I've already processed it. And so that's what I'm doing, processing. And so I'm doing it from bed. I'm doing morning coffee this morning from bed. And I'm not drinking coffee. I'm drinking water. I'm drinking water. I have not smoked my medicine this morning yet because I was you can't see them, but I have set up my studio around me. And it's kind of bootleg set up. I got a light over there and a light right here, but I need a light up. But I'm doing the best I can, and I determined that I'm going to be here at 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday mornings. When I say I'm going to do something and I'm going to be somewhere, I want you to count on me being there. It is a sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice for me to get up in the morning and do this. This is my preferred time. But it's a sacrifice when you're going through to do it. When you're going through something that has zapped your energy. So I'm excited for today because, I actually am going today is actually my mental health day. I see my therapist today. Of course, there's gym and smoothie because that is all a part of my mental health too. You better know that. But I'm looking forward to seeing my therapist today because it's not just regular therapy, it's trauma therapy. And so I'm really getting ready to deal with some stuff. And I don't know if you well, a lot of people don't. I mean, I assume everybody got master's degrees like me, but not everybody does, and everybody doesn't understand the brain and memories and things like that. But what this type of therapy that I'm about to undertake does is, see, sometimes your brain, when you not sometimes when you go through um, trauma, particularly catastrophic trauma, your brain will try to protect you. And so what it'll do is a part of your brain will store traumatic memories so that you don't have to deal with them until you need to, until you are able to, or until maybe you have to mature enough to deal with them, because you don't have the words. And I'll give you an example of that. My son Frank, when he was 2 years old, my god brother Sean, it was over to the house with us, me, him, and T is his cousin. No, that was his niece. I don't know his cousin. T is his niece. And we were all visiting. He was going around making his rounds to say goodbye to everybody because he was getting ready to move away. Well, he came and he was playing with my son. He was 2 until he fell asleep. And so, Frank, he fell asleep, and so we was just all in there chilling. Sean gets a text, says goodbye. He's riding a bike. He goes out the back door. We go upstairs, into the room. We're checking on Frank and Tim. Tim's at school. And all of a sudden, we hear the gunshots. We go to the window. We see one of the girls down the street. I'm not gonna call her name, but she's standing screaming, and these boys are running, and they take off, and they had some kind of way got my brother to come out of my house, of my apartment, come around the building. When he got around the building, they were out there waiting for him, and they killed him. Now, my son I remember was playing with my son until he fell asleep. Once something like that happens, it's unfortunate that they allowed the body to lay out there. It was hours. It was out there for hours while they investigated. The police were around. So, me and T, because, we're only family there at that time, we're running around. We're out of our minds. And we literally were not paying attention to Frank because Frank was napping. Frank then wakes up, and in all the confusion, he goes outside. He walks over to Uncle Sean's body. We didn't even see him. And all he sees is the police standing over Uncle Sean's body. And Uncle Sean's dead. He's 2 years old when that happens. So at 2 years old, his brain was not prepared to deal with that. So it stored that memory. When he turned 5, he started having nightmares and visions. And he kept running into my room in the middle of the night. And he would say, "Mom, the police killed Uncle Sean. The police killed Uncle Sean. The police killed Uncle Sean." Now, the police did not kill Uncle Sean, but what he saw was the police standing over Uncle Sean's dead body. So he's 2 years old. He doesn't understand what he's looking at. But when he turns 5 is when the memory is released, and he starts to have nightmares, and he's coming in my room, sleeping with me. I mean, literally. And so I knew, I've been a psychology student for years. I knew what I was looking at, so I took him to see a counselor, and he the first day, the counselor was a great counselor, and he took him to play ball, to counsel with him. They would play ball, basketball, while they chit chatted. And in the first, the doctor told me, like, in the first few minutes, he had already told him that the police killed his Uncle Sean. And so, he was in therapy until he got that clear. But I can tell you that that's something that had stayed with him his whole life. He loved his Uncle Sean. And even in his music, he talks about his Uncle Sean, you know, before he passed away at 30, you know. And so that's how the brain will store traumatic memories until you're ready to deal with them. And it could store them for years and years and years. And then when you get to a certain point of wholeness, your brain will start saying, okay, you're ready to deal with this. And then it'll release one. I'm going through it, which is why I'm back in therapy. Like, I'm having flashbacks of moments, traumatic moments, things that hurt me that got pushed into this little storage cabinet in my brain that is labeled trauma, not ready to deal with. And literally, I mean, that's how your brain works. And as you develop, because sometimes things happen to you that you don't have the words to express, you don't have the knowledge to understand. And until that comes to you, or until you understand that and understand how to put what's going on with you in words, your brain will store it. So sometimes a child that has gone through significant trauma will not be able, they can probably tell you what happened to them, but they can't express the trauma because their brains are not developed enough for them to deal with the trauma. They don't have the words, the language, or anything else developed yet. As they developed, your brain will start releasing those things for you to deal with it. But you have to deal with them, because sometimes it'll tell you, you're ready to deal with this. But if you don't deal with it, then it will become a problem for you. It'll become a problem for you. So I'm looking forward to therapy this morning so that I can process some of the stuff that I went through this weekend, so that I'm ready for this coming week, because I gotta go back down to the hospital. I'm not gonna let my baby sit down there by itself. I gotta go take up some stuff. I went in his room and I could tell that nobody had been in there. There was nothing in there. He's just, except for him. And I don't know, maybe they don't want the doctors. I don't know. But I'm going to take some flowers or something and put them in there. And I'm going to go sit with him, But I got to deal with me, I got to deal with me. And the one thing I did is I went by myself. And so I probably shouldn't have did that. But my goddesses all had emergencies and they couldn't make it with me. So I wasn't not going to go, because I drove all the way to Detroit. I was going to go. And I love that young man. I do. I love that young man. So I will be there. I will be there. It doesn't matter what I'm going through, because I understand that it's temporary. I understand how to deal with PTSD. I've been doing it for a while when I'm triggered. I'm coming out of it now. I'm going to tell you why. I came home, um, and I sat with my son. I have an altar with my son, or I built one in my car with his music. I sat with my son until I felt like my son was speaking to me and telling me I was okay. Because a lot of time when your brain gets overloaded, you got to remember you're safe. You're okay. You're okay. You're just going through something, but you're okay. And so when I finish that, I come in, I'm fully just drained. So yesterday, I barely got out the bed. I did cook because, you know, it was Father's Day. I didn't have any fathers around here, so I cooked. I cooked for my grandson was here, him and his fiance. So I said, "Hey, this is for you and your future children." And so I did cook, and I literally cooked because sometimes cooking is therapy for me. It's creative, and it takes me out of myself and makes me focus on other things. So yeah, I cooked. I didn't really eat, but I cooked. And so I have certain things that happen to me when I'm triggered. Number one, my appetite leaves. Number two, my sleep goes. Number three, my mind just zip, 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 zip. If you know what that is, you know what that is. When your mind is gone, you know it. And you gotta learn how to take care of yourself. But see, I'm not talking about everyday people, man. I'm talking about people who live on the frequency of trauma called catastrophic. We live with complex PTSD. And see, a lot of people live with it undiagnosed. I just happen to be diagnosed. And once you give me the word, I can get the process, get on with the process of healing. But healing when you have PTSD involves restructuring your brain, retraining your brain. You have to be very structured when you're going through. I have a list of things I do, and I try to every day ground myself in the morning. I'm grounding myself with you right now. I'm grounding myself because it's quiet and peaceful at 6 o'clock in the morning. And even though I'm talking to you, my spirit is open to hear. So that's what I'm dealing with today. That's morning coffee with no coffee. This morning. It's a mental health day for me, and I'm looking forward to going to therapy. I have a new black woman who is a clinical social worker, and that's awesome because this is my first clinical social worker that I've seen. And the reason that I'm seeing her is because I'm moving out into the world now, doing more social things. So I needed something different. But a clinical social worker and a clinical psychologist pretty much do the same thing. However, even in the field of psychology, you can have somebody that's a psychologist that all psychologists don't do the same thing. All of them don't deal with the same thing. Some of them do marriage and family. Some of them do child psychology. Some of them do geriatric psychology. Some of them do lifespan, developmental. Um, I mean, there are different sections of psychology. I am a scientist of psychology. So, me, I'm always observing, I'm always asking questions, and I'm always doing research on certain things. So, like when I'm out in public, I'm always doing research because I'm always observing and asking questions. And I might come home and jot down some notes, some things that I notice. But I notice that the people that I know that deal with PTSD like I do, we all have the same regiment of how to take care of ourselves. You really, look, y'all gotta understand, like, some of the shit your parents did to you. And I've had to have grace with my mom because my mom was horrible. But now, knowing what I know now about psychology and things like that, my mom was bipolar. My mom was bipolar, and she may even have been clinically depressed most of her life. Now, back in her time, first of all, black people are not um, black people are not prone to going doctors. Why? Because we haven't had good experiences historically with doctors. They like to use us as guinea pigs, and so. And I apologize because I've had some good white doctors, but um, at this age, if I'm able to, I do request a black doctor. So my therapist is black. And so I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. Now, here's the thing that I want to encourage you to encourage your children. Because there is a natural distrust for psychology and mental health services in the black community, and it's rightly so. I mean, it's rightly so. I mean, it's not there for any that distrust is not there for no reason. It's there because we have been historically mistreated in the medical field. We have been used and abused by the medical system. The only way to defeat that is to teach your children that are coming up that are interested in being doctors, encourage them. In being psychologists, encourage them, feed those dreams. If we get more black psychologists, more black doctors, then we'll be safer. And that's the only answer I have for that. However, I don't have a problem with therapists. I've been blessed to have really good therapists, white or black. I'm just going through something now where I'm rebuilding my identity, and so I wanted someone black. I'm not racist. I'm not prejudiced or anything. So my last trauma therapist was a very young white young man named Emilio, and he was excellent. He was excellent. He had me going through there. He did. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he was good at it. And I finished my course with him. Like, you don't go to therapy forever. Like, they don't keep you in there forever. And he let me go because he said, you're at a point now where you can work this. So he let me go. So why am I going back? I'm going back now, and it's a different type of therapy because now I am experiencing walking in healing to the point where those traumatic memories that have been stored in my brain, even from childhood, are popping out and saying, deal with me, deal with me, deal with me. And so that's what EDMR therapy does. Deals with them. So, I'm ready for the day. I'm ready for the day. And this might not have been the most bubbly morning that I've had or that I will have on here. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. I'm out of here. I'm on here this morning out of loyalty. Because when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So I don't care what I was feeling this morning. I was going to be here at 6 o'clock to share it with you. And no, I'm not really feeling that good. But it's more physical now than it is mental and emotional. It's physical because when I'm going through that, sometimes my physical is neglected, like I don't eat and I don't sleep and things like that. And I can tell it's lifting up off of me because I'm hungry as hell right now. And I feel like going in there, cooking a full course meal, or probably eating some of the one I cooked last night that I didn't eat. Now, I can be in the depression. I'll cook because it's creative and it engages me. But, I won't eat. So, but now I'm hungry. I'm starting to feel hungry. And that's a good thing. Because I probably lost about 4 pounds this weekend. And I don't like it. So, yeah, today is not the best day for me, but it's going to be a good day. I declare it's going to be a good day. And if you went through something this weekend that was tough, I declare today is going to be a good day for you. I say, hey, I speak peace and clarity over your day. May you see who and what you need to see clearly. Sight. I love you all, and I'll probably see you later on today. But for now, have a wonderful day. I say,